Like I turned 18 and then 4 months later I was you're part owner of a corporation. Don't follow an online guru because they say you can make $25,000 in a month.
Quality of your data is key.
Trash in, trash out.
Exactly. Trash in, trash out. You get what you give.
I mean, they can probably have more effect on the U.S. economy than the Fed in a lot of cases. It's something that really most people should be involved in because it's how you build wealth over the long term.
It's not a job, it's a kind of a lifestyle. Not to sound like cliche.
So worried about AI itself. I mean, there's other technologies that I would argue that people should be worried
Way
about.
more scary.
Such as
I think viewers might be probably not realize how young you. First, each one has to introduce oneself. Like, you're gonna start on this way.
great. Tell me when to go.
Adrian, okay, let's go, Adrian.
All right, my name's Adrian, and I am president of Paratrade Corporation.
And I'm Elliot Cousins, and I'm the head of data analysis at Paratrade.
I'm Gavin Craig, and I'm the vice president of Paratrade.
There we go.
Okay, it's good. Okay, what could you do? Like, what can you say about Paratrade? What is Paratrade exactly? Let's introduce Paratrade.
Sure, I guess I'll get it started here. So Paratrade is a generative AI algorithmic trading company, and we're a proprietary trading company. So we trade our own funds and we build our own algorithms.
Yeah, and just on the matter, we use more than just generative AI. We can get later on into kind of how we've developed our algorithms throughout time of like what we've started with and what we're kind of at now. But we're really about trading. That's really the majority of what we do.
Yep.
Do you have anything to add?
Nope.
Okay, good. What sparked the initial idea for Paratrade Corporation?
Well, I think we should back up here and just start off like, how did we all meet and get into trading? And so really where that started was, personally, I started trading when I was about 13 or 14. I got a 13, 14. I got an investment account and I just started learning about it. I bought a few stocks, maybe $100, $200 worth, and just held them. And then throughout high school, I started getting much more into it and learning more about it, learning about the ins and outs of how it actually works, more than just holding a stock and hoping it goes up. I did a little bit of day trading in high school, and then going into college, Elliot actually posted on his social media that he was building trading algorithms and that he was looking for other people sort of interested in trading. And I hadn't done any algorithmic stuff. I had just done value investing and a little bit of day trading. And so I messaged him and was, talked to him for a while about it, and I connected him to Gavin Craig, who did a lot of work with software development in high school, and I went to high school with him. And so they began working on algorithms themselves. Reached out and said, hey, we think we'd like to turn this into a full company. Would you like to be a part of it? And that's really where it started. And
if I can just, I'll talk about my background a little bit, where I think I was 15 years old, maybe just turned 16. I was working at Walmart, and and I was a cart pusher, going out in the lot, you wrangle all the carts together and you bring them all in, but basically there's a lot of time to just do nothing there. So what I have is a podcast going, or an audiobook, and I just got into financial books, and I'm a really big believer of really knowing the field before you jump in. So I wanted to know everything I could before I started investing the money that I had started earning at Walmart. And I just got through all the basic books, just hours and hours and hours of books, because I had nothing else to do except listen to podcasts while I push these carts around this lot. Me and Craig kind of got connected through Adrian, as Adrian said, and Adrian wanted to join us too. Like there's a mutual agreement between
definitely of like, I think the one kind of or one of the biggest shared aspects between us is the kind of like entrepreneurial mindset of wanting to be our own bosses and run our own company and not be working for someone else. And so I think that was kind of the vein that connected us all. And then we built upon that different skill sets, whether it be Elliot's algorithmic knowledge, Craig's experience in software development, and then my general sort of business and finance experience.
Yeah, a lot like Adrian. Growing up, I had slight interest in the financial world. Not so much actually trading myself, but just doing research, figuring out all the ins and outs. And it was really in the last 2 to 3 years that I really got into the algorithmic side, leveraging my knowledge in software development and machine learning to take advantage of certain aspects of the markets.
And I'd like to give a small shout out to our friend David Bruno, who kind of got us both really into finance in the last 2 years of high school and really pushed us to to really learn about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, what was the biggest hurdle you faced in getting started as young entrepreneur?
Craig, you want to get started with this one?
Eventually, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, sure. So I think probably just because of the way my mind works, when I approach a problem, I usually get it all figured out in my head, and then I try to put it into practice, try to test it out. And especially in the financial world where there are so many variables that go into, the price of certain assets, huge news events, stuff like that. The way they come together is so unpredictable in that an idea that you had might not turn out anything like you thought it would. Yeah. So it takes a lot of trial and error, a lot of approaching things with an open mind, not expecting them to work how you thought they would the first time. And just the way I've overcome that is by accepting that things might not be the way I think they would be.
For me, it was a similar challenge, but more so on the side of setting up the business, where there's really not a lot of resources. You kind of get thrown into the deep end. You have to learn corporate law, you have to learn corporate structure, you have to learn tax law, and it's just kind of most of these concepts are set up, and especially through the documentation that the government gives, is set up for large teams, corporate companies that have 25, 30 people working in their tax department or their compliance department. And me as one person kind of had to learn how to do all that and then do it accurately. Because at the end of the day, you are, as the president, you're signing off your name on it that everything is correct, and you could be held liable if it's not. So the way I've gotten over that is just really taking it slow and doing research. Every time you see something that you don't recognize, you don't notice, Google it, read the section, read it multiple times, and then also, reach out to certain people if you can. And that's sort of how I've gotten over it.
Okay. And for you, Elliot?
I'd say a few big challenges. Really the biggest one initially was definitely finding like-minded individuals, because it really is hard to find people who not only say that they're dedicated, but will show their dedication with the hours they put into the craft. Because, having full-time school can already be a big stressor for a lot of people, and then having a full-time job on top of that, it can really add up for a lot of people. So just being able to have that find people with that disciplined mindset that care about work so much and really enjoy it that much that they're willing to put in that time for no money at all for that first couple of months to years of doing it, or even be profitable for years. Having business ventures before this, trying to go after, having partners that you for maybe a few weeks, few months, they're going for it, and then after that they start to die off. It's just a passion for them, or not passion. It was just a a small thing they want to do in their free time, and then phase, and then just for them to
For them, it's like a temporary job, not a full time, like a permanent stuff.
yeah, like, they're not getting paid, they don't have any commitments, but it really has to have that dedication of like, I want to do this. Finding people like that is the first time I'm able to find people like that in the years I've been trying to do stuff like this. Not necessarily financial field, but all endeavors in general.
So the fundamental is dedication.
Yeah.
And I would butt in and say that they are working much more than a full-time job in terms of the hours that they're putting in. They are
60 hours a week.
Yeah.
80 hours a week.
Yeah. And it's very different from like an actual job in that there's no path for you to follow. You don't have a boss that says, it's like you have to, for example, I was doing our taxes last week, and you read through these sections and none of it's explained. Obviously it obviously will say like reference form, 26B or whatever. And then you have to go look up what form 26B is, read through it, figure out if it applies to you. And there's probably, I don't know, 200 different examples of that on one return. And so it's not like you can just go say, hey boss, what do I do with this? It's like, you better figure it out. Otherwise you're going to be in debt to the IRS or whatever, or the SEC or whoever it is. It's just kind of, and especially for them as well, like at least, on the more business and operation side, there is like some of a path that you can follow, even if it's not really well defined. I mean, obviously they're on the cutting edge of what is possible in this market. And so there is no path because no one's done it before.
Yeah. Okay. You can't just look up, like you can find bits and pieces, but you're the one that has to figure out like, how does this work? You can't just look at an article and trust, people find that the 30-day moving average is the best. No, when you're doing your own stuff, you have to test every single moving average, every single stochastic indicator, every single possible thing on any stock. And you have to come to your own conclusions. You can't just read a paper and be like, this is the best. No, you have to figure that out. But you want to talk about Work Wednesday for a sec? Just like I think on the topic of like hours put in, I think it's a pretty fun thing.
Like how it originated?
Yeah, originally Work Wednesday, and then what it is kind of now.
Yeah, so Elliot and I, when we first, started really putting in the hours, every Wednesday, we called it Work Wednesday, and we would go to this one building.
We didn't both have 8 a.m.s.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
the next day.
So we could work however many hours into the early morning that we wanted to, and we wouldn't have to, worry about getting up for class on Thursday morning. So it was originally just once a week. And then
also Work Wednesday was from 7 or 8 till 4 to 7 in the morning a lot of the time. So some hours.
And a lot of times it would start with me coming to them with a stack of papers to sign. Here's our bylaws. Here's our meeting. Yeah, and I think there's a certain element, obviously, that they alluded to of the just like the dedication, willing to give up certain things. Like I remember pretty well, like Friday night where all my friends were out at a party and I was sitting in a study room writing bylaws for the company, which obviously doesn't sound like the most fun thing, but obviously you got to sacrifice up front to reap the rewards later.
Yeah, getting snaps from your friends that all of them are out partying, and then you're just up at 3 a.m. coding up an algorithm and debugging.
Yeah, exactly.
So you literally live like a professional athlete, but in financial world.
That's a good way to put it. Just you live the life. It's not a job. It's a kind of a lifestyle. Yeah. Not to sound like cliche.
It's more a lifestyle than a job. Yeah. Okay, great. Have you encountered any moments of doubt or setback? How did you stay motivated and persevere over time?
Definitely, yes. There's definitely been doubts and setbacks. Like for example, even recently, we've kind of found spent the last couple of months, at least me, I've been developing some more combinatorial kind of systems of merging strategies together, and then as of recently switching more to machine learning and AI. It's been a big wow, I've just kind of not necessarily wasted the last couple of months, but if I had just known about this stuff earlier, I could have implemented it quicker. I could have known about it sooner. So those have been setbacks of man, all this work that I spent hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours on, just completely useless now, other than what I've learned from it. Wow. So having to start from the ground up again and build those systems with this new information in mind. Those are setbacks for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, I feel like there's a few examples that come to mind. I'll say this story. The first day we traded, we were expecting it to do really well, and we ended up going down because we made an error in calculating in the trading fees per trade fees. But then they fixed it, and the next day we had a fantastic day. So it's kind of like, you can't let those setbacks knock you down or change your mindset, because at the end of the day, when you're working on something that's like, bleeding edge, you're not going to expect things to work. It's just kind of the way it goes. And then another example that comes to mind is I spent like 10 hours working on compliance paperwork just to read a little subsection that made us exempt. And I was like, oh, after all that, and then, if you engage in this business activity, you're exempt on the end of like 100 and something page report. But
And you, Gavin?
Piggybacking off of what Adrian was talking about, having the down days and the up days, the reason why most traders in this field fail is due to their lack of control over their own emotions. And remembering that, well, for one of the greatest benefits of having an automated system like we're developing is there's no human emotion there to affect it, to derail the whole process. And just having trust in what we've put our work into, and not letting our emotions due to a bad day cloud our judgment. Yeah, exactly.
Great. I think about the fourth question already replied some way. What are some key lessons you learn? You said dedication is the key.
yeah.
Yes. And what advice would you give to other young people with big dreams who are considering starting their own companies?
I would say there has never been a time in modern history that it's been easier to set up your own business. Not saying in the finance world or any world, there is so many opportunities for businesses, whether it be online or even in person. You look at like trades, they pay very, very well. You set up your own business doing that. You set up your own online business. It is so easy to set up a business now because of how free knowledge is now. Like before, you would need to go to university to like learn most things, whereas now there's free courses, whether it be Khan Academy or any type of free courses. They're all over. And so if you really put your mind to it, you can pretty much learn whatever you want off the internet. So there's just so many opportunities to start it, and just bite the bullet and go.
Do you have any additional?
You wanna go, Craig?
Yeah, on the topic of free knowledge, I'd say don't let the illusion of a huge barrier of entry get in your way. The financial sector is a great example of this. Anybody who's in the know is using, really complex jargon and talking about all these complex financial instruments, making it seem like your average Joe can't do the things. Yeah. Like they're not capable of doing what they do on Wall Street. But I'd say just dive straight in, do your research. It's usually not as complex as it seems.
I have a few things where, one, just to start off on what you guys are saying, where I like to start at just thinking, like, if you don't know where to start, just think about what you're trying to do, like from the very highest level, what your kind of goal is. And then just boil that down to problem by problem by problem. And eventually all those problems come together and build up a tree of just solving this last one. But for as far as like advice goes, really just, I'd say two things are discipline and finding a team, or not even a team, just a person. Someone that's dedicated, that'll push you, that you can push them. But discipline's so important, because without discipline, you're going to go for a week or two and get burnt out or be like, this isn't worth it, nothing's working. You have to know that as long as I work hard at this, it will happen. If I just keep going every day, put everything I can into it, at least, even if you fail at this specific thing, at least you tried. Like you did everything you could. There's no worse feeling than being like, oh man, if I had just put in 100 more hours into this, I could have been where I want to be at.
Yeah, and I would say kind of building on path. Forge your own path. don't follow an online guru because they say you can make 25,000 in a month. That pretty much every single online guru that says that they can make you money is going to scam you. So do your own research, learn it properly. Don't pay for someone's stock picks if you're going to be in the financial space. Just really take a look at what the market is and do something because you like it, not because it's going to make you a lot of money. Because if you say, oh, I want to do like affiliate marketing or something, most people are going to hate that, even if there is some money in it. So, maybe you want to start your own business painting houses or something because you like being outside. There's plenty of money in that versus it doesn't have to be a trendy business.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you have to just resume it on one sentence, what you can say, like everything he said, Gavin said, Elliot said, just in one sentence, what would you say?
Forge your own path.
Okay, forge your own path.
Work hard. Just like that simple. Just work hard.
Okay.
Keep going. Don't stop.
Now, let's dive into practical advice and business insight. Can you explain the specific AI and machine learning techniques behind product trades, investment strategies?
We can't get specific for obvious reasons with proprietary stuff, but we can go a general overview of how stuff is kind of developed. And we haven't mentioned a disclaimer yet. Should we mention a disclaimer?
Yeah, we should mention that all the views expressed on this podcast don't represent any of the views of Paratrade Corporation, and all the views expressed on this podcast are not financial advice and should not be taken as such.
I would like the text.
Just have to be safe there,
Yeah.
Anyways, though, so as far as how we've kind of developed from not getting into any specifics, of course, just general overview. We first started with what a lot of people start with, just kind of brute force combinatorial systems, where you will start with, let's say you have an idea for a trading logic, something super simple like a moving average over a stock, and let's just say component crossing to give some logic to it, where you have two moving averages and you buy when one crosses and sell when it crosses back. You'd have that, and you'd have a bunch of different logics like that, and you would just brute force connect them, see what the return would be, and then what the highest return is the one that wins. Of course, calculating risk into that. And that's what we started with. We got that from the very first month, being able to do a couple hundred combinations to thousands to eventually millions in just a few seconds, just millions and millions of combinations. And what kind of happens is you overfit, and it causes it to be super not generalizable to further data, and it's just not a great move.
Let me jump in here and just explain what he means by overfit. Basically what he's saying is that the algorithm would be really good at trading on the stock's previous history, meaning it was too good at predicting what the, say, last year or last 6 months would do. And so therefore it wasn't good at predicting the future because it was too closely correlated to the historical data.
Yeah. And then, so after that, I just had an idea for kind of it's machine learning. I don't want to get too specific, of course, but essentially it would it's totally fine to talk about this, to find a weight to each logic of okay, which one of these has the highest correlation to the best prices. It would weight all those, you'd find thresholds of when to buy and when to sell, and you'd add them all up and stuff like that. But what kind of happens there is it's just not a complex enough system. It's just not as good. So then now where we're kind of at is we're starting to do neural networks with what actual AI really is, where it forms neural pathways of when this signal is given on this specific statistical indicator, what path will be fired to give what percent ratio that is confident that this will be the best place to buy.
Okay. Do you have anything to add, Gavin?
On a more fundamental level, we found this out many times throughout our journey that quality of your data is key.
Oh my God.
Trash in, trash out.
Exactly. Trash in, trash out. You get what you give. Just making sure that you've got filters in place, high quality data sources, and very intricate and pre-processing to know exactly what you're putting in and to be confident that your results are going to be accurate to real world data.
Okay, good. Interesting. How do you ensure your AI models are ethical and unbiased in making financial decisions?
I think I'll jump in on this one. Trading, really, there's no ethical implications from the actual trading. It's what are the activities of the company that you're trading. So if, we try to stay away from any companies that we would see as unethical to trade. So you just don't even touch that. So then you have no sort of qualms with the model, because if you're trading an ethical company, any trading activities you do on that should be ethical. So we really just stay away from any unethical companies at a picking what we're going to trade level, so that we don't have any issues with the algorithm. Because some people would say that in an unethical company, you want to short them and you want to try to reduce their stock price and in theory put them out of business. But that often is not a very good game to play, because the SEC doesn't particularly like it, because you're manipulating stock price. And also, a company being unethical doesn't necessarily mean it's not run effectively and produces good profits. So,
okay. Do you have anything to add? No. Okay. Okay. Now, what are some of the biggest challenges you see in the future of AI-powered finance, according to you?
I think one of them is just the sheer amount of algorithms that can be out there. You're able to make algorithms kind of quicker with AI a lot of the time if you know what you're doing, and I think it's just, I don't know. I don't have too much to say on this, actually.
I think that their effectiveness will get reduced as they sort of generate more market penetration in terms of where how many algorithms and how much volume of the daily volume is AI traded. And then, its significant gains will get reduced when everyone's doing it. That's sort of the thing that happens with every new technology. Now, AI is there could be new types of algorithms that harness AI that will obviously get your gains back. So it's really just a race, like it's always been, of who can create the new, strategy that's ultra profitable. I mean, it has been since the 1700s when markets first were created. So I think that it won't affect it that much differently than any other new technology. When algorithmic trading first started to happen in the 70s, when computers were first starting to be harnessed. However, in other parts of the world, there are some interesting implications, which is China has banned algorithmic trading in general, not just AI, algorithmic trading in general. Now, China's not exactly a earmark of capitalism, but they sometimes are ahead of the US in certain technologies. So that may be where we end up, but I don't see that happening soon.
Okay.
I think you had finished your point, right?
Yes.
Well, I was just going to add on to what Gavin was saying, that I think that value in, no matter what happens with high frequency trading and algorithms, value investing for 99 or 98% of people is always going to be the better option, because you're creating intrinsic value versus arbitrage. So yeah, I think that, there's a bunch of possibilities where it could go. We'll see where China goes. We'll see what the SEC thinks about it in a few years, but I don't see markets going away from a value investing perspective.
Okay. Great. Now the next one, interesting. How do you balance your study with running a company?
You started.
I mean, we all know you can't really. I mean, you don't you have to make choices on do I choose to sleep an extra hour tonight, or do I choose to get an extra hour of work done, or do I choose to get this assignment done on time, or do I to get this work done? But a lot of the time it comes down to decisions. It's really just about being able to manage your time in the end, being able to say, okay, I'm not going to watch an episode of TV tonight. I'm gonna get an extra 20 minutes of sleep. I'm gonna be able to take a shower. Like just like super small. I mean, it's funny, of course, but like it's small things. I mean, when you have really 18 hours at really most in a day for trying to get good sleep, to get all this stuff done, you have to get done. You have to eat, you have to work out, and then you have to get all your work done. You have to get all your schoolwork done. You have to go to all your classes. It's just so much stuff. But it's really just about time management, knowing what assignments are due when and being able to get those done in time.
Okay, so the key point is time management.
Yeah. And also just like at the end of the day, you have to rank what you care about most. If you care about the company most, school will suffer. Social relationships will suffer. Mm-hmm. Other things will suffer. And so like Elliot said, you only have 18 hours in the day. So eliminating the distractions that suck up hours of your day, like social media, TikTok, Instagram, those kind of things where you can be on your phone for what feels like 20 minutes and, 2 hours went by.
Okay, so you have to clearly state what are your priorities, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you, Gavin, you have... Okay. Great. So the tips you give to student entrepreneur is to first set their priorities and have a very efficient time management.
Yeah.
Okay, great. What are your long-term goals for Paratrade Corporation? And additionally, what impact do you hope to make on the financial landscape?
Yes, okay.
So start first by what are your long-term goals for Paratrade?
So I think my biggest goal out of if nothing else is to further my knowledge in this field, so that I can in the future apply it in areas that will be beneficial.
Yeah. I'd say for Paratrade specifically, one of the really big goals is to have everything fully 100% automated, where we don't have to touch a computer. It just does everything for us from starting up when market opens to closing it at market close, closing all our positions at the end of the day, being able to dynamically change the strategies and grow the strategies, develop as they change around assets and our portfolio changes based on performance, having automatic allocation or dynamic allocation of funds based on the predictive power of the trade that's coming up. Just everything being automated where no human error or human emotion gets involved.
Okay. And you?
Yeah, I think that kind of building off what they said, that there's a lot of aspect of learning. Obviously, for most of us, it's our first actual company. We've all had our entrepreneurial streaks through high school, but this is our first entry into the real corporate world, and both a learning experience and to some extent getting our names out there as professionals in the industry. So
going into this, what impact do you hope to make in the financial world?
I think that, to kind of put it bluntly, to make a splash in that, we do something that gets noticed by the big players, both for sort of a personal, getting recognized and getting jobs and connections through that. But also, it's always the startup companies that are pushing industries forward. It's never really the big companies. Big companies buy startup companies to improve their technologies or whatever it may be, but it's always startups pushing the industry forward, and we're hoping to push it forward.
By the way, what do you think about Aladdin BlackRock?
Well, I think that there's... Are you asking from an ethical perspective? What do I think of BlackRock?
Yes, I think your personal opinion in terms of the future, because I think back in the previous century, BlackRock, I think, changed. I'm not an insider comparing to you, but I think changed the game a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at BlackRock and Vanguard are kind of sister companies. They own each other effectively, and they have taken over a significant amount of the financial market. I want to say they have about like $14 trillion under management between the two. And so there's like some ethical qualms that I have with them where it's, they're buying a lot of single family homes and making it so most people in our generation probably won't be able to afford a house until they're pretty old. And
in terms of AI technologies,
I would say BlackRock wasn't really the one that brought on that kind of stuff. I think you look at someone like Jane Street. Jane Street was kind of the first firm that really revolutionized these kind of novel trading strategies where you use artificial intelligence or machine learning, or even just all sorts of odd non-traditional strategies that yield.
Okay. Do you have additional thoughts?
Yeah. Just going back a little bit to the previous question of like what we're hoping to kind of make out of Paratrade a little bit. Yeah. One thing for me is I've always thought about it that like it's really difficult in this day and age to make something that nobody's ever done before, to make something actually new and revolutionary. Yes. And as much as it might not be entirely possible, because you never know what people have made behind closed doors, but just from a what's publicly available standpoint, I want to be able to make something which I feel like I'm really on the path towards making a system that's just hasn't been made before, something that's new in a lot of ways, or at least has some very distinct features that have not really been implemented in the ways that they have been done. Just making something that not only challenges like my skills, but also just challenges what's actually been out there.
Okay, great. And do you have, Gavin, anything to add?
Back to your question on BlackRock, the amount of consolidation of power that it's a little worrying going into the next 5-10 years, especially with artificial intelligence. We're going to see huge changes to the way we conduct our daily lives. And in this infancy of the AI revolution, I think it's very important to put in place checks and balances to ensure that whoever does hold the most power over these systems has the best interests of humanity in mind, and they're not self-centered.
So they have to be connected to the fundamentals of the market.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also not just like humanity, but at a sort of more micro level, just the country in terms of the U.S. Making sure that no one sort of goes for a power grab, if that makes sense. Because BlackRock controls a good amount of the U.S. economy. I mean, they can probably have more effect on the U.S. economy than the Fed in a lot of cases.
Oh,
just because
that's huge.
Yeah.
Listening this for an insider, that's huge. So, I think startups might be able to change the game as previously in the history. We hope financial world will continue on the interparentheses the right way and on the wrong way. Okay. Student co-founder dynamic. How did you try to co-found Prodigies? You explained it in the beginning, but not in a very detailed way.
We can go more in depth.
Yeah, I think we should start like, obviously we already explained how we met, but I would say that how the nucleus of the company actually starts is more of their story.
I mean, actually, we do have a little bit of a story. So it's like it's got to be so day one before even school starts. We're getting in our peer mentor groups, and I meet Craig for the first time, and I think so. That's just when we first met. But the first time we started talking about Paratrade, I guess not before it had the name Paratrade, was when we were going on the M climb, which is a hike at this school where you hike whatever 4 miles or whatever it is. I don't know how long it is, all the way up to the.
Yes.
Do you know how long it is?
Yes, I think about 2 miles or less. 2 miles.
2 miles, so 2 miles up, 2 miles down.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're on the M climb, and
I'm not sure.
it's something like that. It's a couple hours. It's a couple hour hike because it's all uphill. But anyways, the difficulty of the hike doesn't matter. What matters is that we're hiking up and we're just starting to talk about like, oh, what is our background a little bit? Oh, what have we done? And like we just kind of start getting on the topic of finance, and we're just super into finance with like all the new generative AI that's been coming out with I guess just ChatGPT to name just an example. And just thinking about like what are the implications this can happen into the financial field, and just we're just talking. We're like we could do this. We could start going on this. We both have a huge passion. We both learn a lot from it. We both have been looking for something. So that's. Do you have anything else to add to that part? Because there's a second part, really.
Not really, no.
Okay. Well, the second part I was going to say was before we started doing anything, we had this idea it was a very stupid idea, but. Basically, this guy was added everyone on Snapchat, and everyone knows him as Carlos Soccer, right? Is that it? Carlos Soccer, and people just started taking a bunch of pictures with him. So we're like, what if we just as a practice test to like just test out our skills, refresh our stuff on a little bit of web dev? What if we just in one night make a whole website for this guy and all the pictures of him and everything? So what we do is we start at like 2 p.m. We set up all of the connections between our computers to work on the same project. And until about 4 or 5 in the morning, we were just coding the whole time to get this website up and deployed all in one night. I even bring this massive like memory foam mattress kind of up into one of the community rooms and just sleep in the community room because I didn't want to go back to my room and wake up my roommate. Just and then so the night after that we're like, okay, it's time to get serious. This is just a goof project. We're starting tomorrow. We're gonna start working on what eventually became Paratrade.
For anyone who is wondering what in the world Elliot is talking to, if you go to carlos.soccer, it's still up.
So you can check. Okay.
And then I think this is where I come into the story, and we kind of have our first meeting, so to say. I think it was before school even started, before classes started, I want to say.
For City of Minds Market.
Yeah.
Coming to the booth.
Yep. We had our first meeting. And then basically by the next time we had started brainstorming ideas, I was drawing out things on whiteboards for possible strategies, building flowcharts. And then we said, yeah, we're really going to do this. So then I started work on incorporating the company. That was a relatively big process. So that was getting our articles of incorporation in Colorado, nationally, and then writing up our bylaws and sort of building up the corporate structure, getting bank accounts, investment accounts. That was a big debacle for a long time for me, was getting our brokerage accounts open. Because brokerage firms don't love giving out institutional accounts to 3 college students. But we were able to get through.
What are your individual strengths and weaknesses that complement each other? First, I think it's worth to introduce your position in the company in order to explain it better.
You want to start, Craig?
Sure. So my formal title is that I am the vice president of Paratrade Corporation. However, since we don't have many employees to manage, all the presidential duties are lifted from me, given to Adrian, because he is the president. So on the development side, I manage the actual execution of our strategies on the markets in real time. I make sure that we're keeping track of fees. We're keeping track of every trade placed. Trades are being placed with very low latency from the time that we receive data to the time that we act on it. So yeah.
And I'm basically the step right before that is where I develop the strategies, and I develop the technical strategies of, and I basically I analyze a lot of data is really what I do. I try to find statistical properties I can derive from regular data and be able to basically build this massive features list that can be fed into a model. And just figuring out all the systems involved in that to be able to have a scalable system that can be into a nice compact package that you then just feed a single data point into, and a data point pops out of buy or sell or do nothing.
But I think it would worth to say exactly why you decided to choose Elliot to do this job comparing to other. How did you find out you are the best for this job in the company?
Yeah. So it's honestly kind of how the dominoes just fell, to be honest. It's where we had jobs that needed to be done, and we kind of wanted to group the jobs that were related together so there's as little overlap as possible. Kind of finding the jobs that what scale well together is data analysis and kind of packaging jobs or packaging strategies and just getting logic and the code base for that together. And what also packages well is real-time implementations, fee structures, API calls, just how they group together. And you can't, if you had one person doing half and half of this and half of that, you're going to slow yourself down. You have to be really efficient when you're working with 3 people and 2 people on the development side. Okay. And you want to say anything else on that, Craig?
No.
So I am president of Paratrade Corporation. So my duties are pretty broad. I handle a lot of the managerial stuff. So compliance, taxes. I also handle all of our accounts. So our investment account and our bank account, anything to do with those. And then on top of that, I also do some strategy and so a lot of work like thinking of possible strategies and exploring them at kind of a early stage level. So like, is there a possibility for something to work here? I do research into a lot of different stocks that we can trade. But most of my time is taken up by the sort of, especially it being tax season now, dealing with taxes, compliance, managing records, accounts. And then also I handle like our LinkedIn, but most of my duties are the managerial duties, and then strategy. Strategy is a big one.
So, my question is, what process did you use to find out that Adrian is the best person as president? How did you find out? What are your techniques and your strategy?
Well, I'd say me and Craig, coming from a coding background, we wanted someone to do everything else that didn't involve coding, so we could spend all of our time developing systems. Okay. And Adrian has a lot of background when it comes to management. just general in that field with connections, and it just made the most sense for him to be in the position of president, because that takes the most. We don't want to have to be around having to sign papers, having to sign whatever. We needed someone that could just encapsulate that role entirely, so we would have all our time to focus. Like I've said before, that when you have 3 people, you have to divide as evenly as possible, as just cut and dry between jobs, so you don't have as much overlap. And I think what really got me and Craig to divvy up the work was that he's a lot better at reading the documentation than me. I'm so much of like, Craig, how does this API call work? And he's just like, I figured this out like an hour ago. And I'm like, why am I don't want to mess with API. I like to be able to do all my own work, like to be able to just look into my own stuff. And that's just kind of how that.
I think the broad thing here is just like managing overlap. Like, you don't want any overlap. There's no reason why Craig or Gavin or Elliot should be answering an email from Interactive Brokers regarding our account status when that'll just, that'll tear them away from work. And say it takes, 5 minutes to look into whatever they want to know, or 20 or 30. It still means they were pulled away from something, and then they have to recenter themselves and get back on it. Like, there's no point in sort of like, jumping around from responsibilities, because every time you jump tasks, there's a bit of time that's wasted. And as they've both said, like, wasted time is the biggest thing you're trying to eliminate.
Okay. What are some unique advantages or challenges that come with being student co-founders? Advantages and or challenges that come with being student co-founders?
Want me to jump in?
I think challenges. You already like talked about challenges. Now, is there any advantages?
Yeah, we can. I mean, we could talk about both from this perspective of. I mean, one's an advantage and a disadvantage. When you're a student, you're working a lot harder. You have a lot less time already, so you kind of learn to. I'm a big believer that the more you have on your plate, the more you get done. Like if you have one thing to do, you're going to spend hours just scrolling and watching YouTube. If you have 100 things to get done, you have to get to work, you know? So that's kind of an advantage right there. Especially when we started out and we just had like little things to start doing, like looking into this for a day. Now we kind of have set paths that we need to follow and school starts to get in the way. So what was once an advantage has started to become a disadvantage. Okay. That's one for me.
I'll say this is a classic. Being of a younger generation in this field, it's harder to be taken seriously, especially in the financial sector where it's a lot of old-fashioned people who really control what's going on here. And not only being taken seriously by the sector, but also by your peers and your parents.
Yeah. Can I say something on that real quick? That the amount of times that I've told someone like what I do, and then they bring up later, oh, is that project you're working on? It's like it's not a project. Like this isn't a project. This isn't me having to complete my 2-week project for a class. This is what I do 24/7 when I'm not doing that. This is a full-time job that I'm not getting paid for yet, but it will pay off in dividends in the years to come, months to come.
I think that there's one advantage of being sort of a student is you get all these fantastic workspaces being at college.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Of like, there's all these fantastic areas where we can work versus we'd probably be working in someone's room or at a coffee shop if we weren't in college. But then the other thing is obviously just like the work-life balance. Like you've got that many extra things to do that are kind of on your plate at all times. But.
Okay, good. Now, how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance between while working together as close friends?
Well, you don't maintain a healthy work-life balance. That's just not. That just doesn't happen. Well, I think as friends, you almost separate it of like this is work time and this is like screwing around friends time. Oh, yeah. Like that, there's just like a clear line between when you're working and when you're not working. And then also if things come up, you just have to talk. Like you can't just you have to be like, hey, I don't like this, or like, hey, I'm unhappy with this, versus just kind of letting it fester.
Yeah. You have something to say?
I think Adrian put it perfectly.
I had something I'm trying to remember now. It might come back to me.
Okay, good. What advice would you give to other aspiring student co-founders on building a successful partnership?
Well, I would go back to what Elliot was saying earlier about finding people that have the right spirit and that are like-minded like you. So that aren't just going to treat it, like you said, like a phase, where it's going to be, hey, we're in this for the long term and we're going to do this, until it produces something, versus like, oh, we're going to do this for a few weeks and burn out. Like he was saying, basically.
I think a big part is just seriously enjoying what you do. I mean, I look forward to it now. When I'm done with all my schoolwork, I'm like, I finally can get to work, I enjoy doing what I do because, a big part of coding is music, and I love music, and you're just able to just, kind of get in the coding zone where you're just, it's such a nerdy thing to say, of course, but the coding zone. No, but you're just completely just coding away, just listening to, all this music. It's just something to look forward to, You have to enjoy it. This is really what I'm trying to give a takeaway of. You can't just do it because you want the outcome. You have to like the process.
Okay. So I think you say the joy and the happiness is on the journey, not on a destination.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But also there are going to be times where it's not fun and you have to keep your eyes on the prize. Like I wouldn't say filling out taxes is the most fun thing in the world, but it's got to get done. And you just accept that that's part of the responsibility. And once you accept it, you can be like, this is getting me closer to where I want to be. And so you find joy in the fact that you are taking advantage of your life and you're doing, you're doing something with it.
Okay. And you, Gavin, do you have anything to
Just
add?
like these two said, be passionate, be disciplined, don't lose sight of your goals. You're doing this for a reason.
If you could have lunch with any entrepreneur in the world, who would it be and why?
You want me to start? I would say Warren Buffett, just from an investment standpoint. He is pretty consistently one of the best investors on the market, and I just love his. I love his quotes, and I love his character, and he's just proven to be a very successful and ethical investor. And just see, really what puts the pieces together for him.
Elliot, and for you?
I think, if I had more time a lot of time to think, I could probably think of someone better, but someone just as of recent, I'd say kind of Sam Altman, for the sole reason that he's a real innovator in the field right now, and to be able to talk to him on a deeper level about kind of what he believes is happening and what's going to happen would just be super informative and super interesting to hear what his beliefs are, being an industry leader of a current developing technology.
So for you, it's also Warren.
Sam Altman.
Okay. And you?
Elliot stole my idol. No, I'm kidding. Of course, Sam Altman, number one. But if I had to choose another, I really admire Elon Musk's work ethic. At least from his perspective, he's always talking about how he's slept on the factory floor of Tesla. He's rarely ever gone home. He rarely has a home. He just has this incredible dedication to the cause, and if he wants to get something done, he'll get it done.
Great. Okay. What book or movie has most inspired you in your entrepreneurial journey? What book or movie has most inspired you?
I have.
Yeah, one of yours.
I was going to say, just top of my head, I always come back to this one. It's a book called Make It Stick, and also Algorithms to Live By.
Make it stick.
Make it stick. So these are, before anything could really happen, you have to just know how to learn. I think it's such an important thing. Knowing how to learn something once and have it stick with you the rest of your life. Otherwise, you don't have enough time to actually do the stuff you need to do because you're spending way too much time relearning stuff, just learning stuff. You can't get away from school because of how much time it's taken up, because you can't learn in an efficient period of time. It's also just so much more enjoyable to learn something when you know it'll stick and you know you're learning it in a way that's going to stick, compared to just having it go in one ear and out the other. I think those two books really, also from a discipline standpoint, it shows you some stuff you can do in life to just, enjoy life more, because you're working so hard and you're doing stuff at it. And I think that's such a base level before you can work on these extra steps of like, what am I going to develop today?
Oh, okay, great. And you?
Yeah, I think from a financial perspective of just like kind of life advice, Rich Dad Poor Dad's a really good book that I think everybody should read. And I've also enjoyed, I like reading history. So I've read a lot of nonfiction on history, but I'd say Rich Dad Poor Dad is something that everybody should read. Even if you don't want to go into the financial industry, even if you don't want to really have any play in it, any part in it, you should read that just for life advice, honestly.
So if there's only one book to read, is Poor Dad,
Rich Dad Poor Dad, yeah.
Okay. And you, Gavin, I'm listening to you.
I'd say Elliot actually introduced me to this one. If you really want to deep dive into the most cutting edge techniques in quantitative finance, Marcus Lopez de Prado's Advances in Machine Learning for Finance is a really great source of knowledge that we've picked bits and pieces from to enhance the way Advances in Machine Learning for Finance.
Okay, good. Great. Now, what is something most people don't know about the world finance or AI?
So I'll just jump in here on the world of finance. I think that there's sort of like a mystical fog that surrounds it that most people perceive it as. And it's really not, all that. Any person can get into it. Any person can get a brokerage account. And it's something that really most people should be involved in because it's how you build wealth over the long term.
Okay.
I think for AI it's not as scary or as kind of, it's incredibly revolutionary, but not to like the degree people I think praise it to be like, oh, it's going to destroy the world. It's like, no, it's just a lot more advanced statistical models than previously available. I mean, we've had the idea of artificial intelligence, like the actual base concepts that people use since the early 1900s. It's just that we have the processing power now to actually be able to execute those, and they're getting smarter and smarter. And one of the reasons that such a big jump happened so quick was because computers were getting faster and faster, but the software that we used wasn't. So when we find a way to actually utilize all power of a computer is when that, it looks like a massive jump happened and it looks like it's exponentially growing. But what really happens is this one big jump happened and now it's going to slowly grow like it does so in any technological field.
Yeah. Okay. Great perspective. Thank you.
I'd say your average person nowadays I think they tend to underestimate the current landscape of AI and what we're seeing in terms of new concepts and breakthroughs. I mean, I'd say if you ask someone about ChatGPT, they're going to say, "Oh, it's a chatbot." We've seen chatbots before. What's so special about it? But I think what a lot of people don't realize is ChatGPT was our first. It was the first program that had the inklings of reasoning and understanding. And I think a lot of people underestimate how powerful that really is when you can get a machine to reason just like a human would.
So I'm kind of on the side of people that are way too overscared about it. He's on the side that people are like, what's the big deal? So it's like this middle ground of people that I think understand it properly.
Yeah, I think it's going to change the world we live in. But I also don't think that, we should be so worried about AI itself. I mean, there's other technologies that I would argue that people should be worried about.
Way more scary. Yeah.
Such as what happens to like society and social contact when you have everyone walking around with augmented reality headsets on, and how does that change social contact more than I would be worried about AI.
Okay. Now, I think that's the last question. What is one question you wish someone had asked you about your venture?
One for me is just like, I guess just our backgrounds a little bit before any of this, before any finance or anything. I mean, we've all done big projects on our own, big projects, maybe not even on our own, but with a very small team of 1 or 2 people. Like we can each go over a few if everyone's sure. So for me, I've developed one of the first things I did is a friend came up to me and asked if I could develop an app, and I'm like, no, I have no idea how to do that. And then I thought for a minute, I'm like, I could try, and I developed a full app for my school system that showed you like when events were happening, what the schedules were for that day, what news was coming out, and like just all events that were happening. And I was very proud of that one. That took me months to make, because that was before GPT was out, and I had to look up everything on my own, and I couldn't just get a little bit of information from GPT on how to use this piece of code or how to do this in the right way and stuff like that. But and when you're learning a new language, that can be very challenging. Like I was working in Swift, which and I was familiar with, was probably not the best choice for making an app for all devices, but because you can only do it on iOS devices. But I guess another one I've done is I've developed a VR game where that was a hard challenge with a friend I developed.
At which age?
Huh?
At which age?
Oh, this was 17, I think I developed this. Wow. And then at 16, I did the app. And I'd been coding for maybe 6 months before that. So, I mean, I've from the day I started and decided I'm going to start coding, I had just been coding every day for hours and hours and hours for the last 2 or 3 years now.
Cool. Yeah.
You guys want to get into some projects?
Yeah, sure. This is continuing. I still do it now, but I write geopolitical consulting for for a few outlets. So that's kind of a maybe not a hard endeavor, but it's something that you have to develop the intuition and you have to develop the knowledge base to provide effective consulting, because it goes beyond just what is happening. It's what you think will happen, and you have to be right about what you think will happen. You have to be right most of the time. And so getting to the point where, I am right about big things, especially when a majority of consultants disagree with me. It's that's big, is starting to really be effective at predicting geopolitical events and commodities, pricing and events.
Great. And you, Gavin?
Yeah, in the 4 years leading up to this first year of college, I did a lot of freelance software development, and I think that has had a huge impact on my skill set as a programmer. It's forced me to widen my knowledge base. If someone goes to a freelance programmer, everybody else. Sorry, I gotta phrase this correctly. Having a wide range of projects being brought to me from many areas of
in a short period of time, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, relatively. Has forced me to adapt to different systems and different languages and different techniques, and I'm grateful for it.
Great.
Yeah, I think that's something that's kind of a shared characteristic between all of us, is the ability to adapt to things and just, to some extent, just figure it out,
And that we've had a drive to be kind of our own bosses, even at the time not knowing it, just wanting to do stuff on our own that we weren't told, this is what you got to do by this time. It's like, no, we want to build these projects that we're passionate about, that we actually want to do.
Yeah, and take hold of our success, not just rely on a college or a company to make us successful, but really,
Okay. I think viewers might be probably not realize how young you are. Maybe they are maybe 25 and more. But I think it's possible to do that whatever your age is. At the moment you are legally authorized to start your venture, just go. So let's share. Are you open to share it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm 18.
I'm 19.
I'm about to turn 19.
Yes. Now you understand that there is no, I think, limit from even, let's say, the beginning of the interval, or even when you are older. If I remember well, McDonald's were started, I think it at 77, something like that.
What are you talking about?
McDonald's. 77?
KFC was one that was started super, super late, right?
It might be KFC, maybe KFC.
Super successful restaurant.
KFC, yes, KFC.
Yeah.
A very old man.
So there is no specific age.
Yeah.
If you feel you are ready, just go in.
I think it's interesting that I turned 18 and then 4 months later I was you're part owner of a corporation and I got us an institutional investment account at 18.
Yeah.
I remember I started mine too, but I was a little bit older. I was, I think, 20 years old. But unfortunately, I failed. I explained it on another video and another podcast. I think that was the last question.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add before we close the podcast for this episode?
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure. That's the first official video of this channel. Thank you for watching. I know if you are right here, that means you watched the video from the beginning to the end. And thank you. So, another reminder, make sure to subscribe first and check on my LinkedIn to know the next guest. The link of my LinkedIn is there. I will put the link just here, or check in description section. You will find the LinkedIn. Yes. So make sure to follow me on LinkedIn to know who is the next guest, and see you around next week.